Golf fans, we are back for the second major of the season. It is PGA Championship week at Quail Hollow. My name is Kyle, and I'm the founder of Tap In Fantasy. We have one vision, and that is to bring the fractured fantasy golf landscape to one platform. Yes, you heard that right. We call it the 6 pillars of fantasy golf. We will have traditional fantasy, one and done, drafts, tiers, salary-based games, and betting all in one place. We are currently in the opening phase with development. Everything is still underway. Once we get a solid foundation built, we can't wait to show it off. But for now, we are just going to be talking golf. Every week, I will be releasing an article and video highlighting everything you need to be successful for the main slate Draftkings contest. And once we get our own platform up and running, we will transition all of our content over to our own website. We want to put you guys first, the community. You tell us what you want out of a fantasy golf platform, and we're going to make it happen. To support us, please check out tapinfantasy.com. Sign up for our newsletter. It'll give you all the early beta access info, any updates we might have, all that fun stuff. All you need is an email, and you are good. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content drops, and follow us on our socials. It will go a long way towards helping us grow and become the industry leader in all things golf. For links to everything you need, just check out the description of this video. Now, there's a lot to look forward to this week, with all the best coming back to Charlotte to see who can voice the Wanamaker Trophy, but no need to ramble. Let's just jump into talking golf. All right, we are in Charlotte, North Carolina at Quail Hollow for the PGA Championship this week. It is a par 71, plays about 7,500 yards, and I am a Charlotte native, and I can tell you with certainty it has been pouring basically since Sunday. And it's going to pour all the way up until about midday Wednesday. This course is going to be very wet and very soggy. Just in general, I don't know how much rain we're actually going to get for the rest of the week, but just keep in mind, going into it, things are going to be playing very wet, at least for Thursday and Friday. Now, if we are looking for some sort of weather edge, I am not at the moment seeing much. So Thursday, golfers going out around 8 a.m. These first golfers out might see for a couple of holes lower wind patterns, but nothing crazy, and then it's going to be sustained in the 20 or in the low, probably I would say low teens with gusts up into the mid 20s, but that's going to be pretty much all day. It's going to be very consistent. Again, a positive is the temperature is going to be quite high, so the ball is going to be moving a lot further, but given the fairways are probably going to still be pretty soggy, I just can't see the ball rolling all that far. I don't think that'll play much of a factor when it comes to a weather edge, but just keep that in mind. And we'll talk about that when we get into our modeling and stuff. But for Thursday, I'm not seeing much of an edge. Friday, we actually have lower winds I really am seeing some gorgeous weather. I don't see much of an edge here either. I think, again, they're going off at around 8 a.m. It's going to be low single digits with gusts into the around 50 miles an hour, and that's pretty low in comparison to some tournaments. Temps getting up to mid 80s, which is fantastic, and then you're only going to be seeing gusts for these later tee time guys that are going to get up to like the mid to high teens. I don't see enough for me if I am looking at trying to peg a weather edge when it comes to having an AM PM split or a PM AM split. I'm not seeing enough. And then Saturday is when I think the real fun is going to happen. We are going to be seeing some serious wind gusts for these afternoon guys, the guys that have really put up a performance Thursday and Friday. They're going to be going off later. They're going to see some serious wind gusts. I mean, 27 to 30 is nothing to scoff at, and then that's sustained in the mid-teens. I really think they could struggle. By that point, with these temperatures, the sun's coming out, I think the course will have dried out enough that they're going to be able to, the ball's going to be rolling a little bit further. So it might benefit them slightly. But I do think these earlier guys, if we're going to see a little bit of rain, there might be a little bit of moisture, they're going to be able to stick it on the greens a lot easier. I really do think with the slightly lower winds, if we're looking for any sort of weather edge this week at all, it's going to be for Saturday Showdown. Maybe play some of these guys that barely snuck in the cut, have some good ball striking numbers. Maybe they're just not putting it that well, and you can see a positive regression in that category, and they can move up the leaderboard because they're going to have a little bit lower winds in the morning. But other than that, I'm not seeing much. Sunday's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to set up for an amazing finish. But With that said, let's go ahead and jump into ownership, modeling, all that fun stuff. All right, we are at Quail Hollow for the PGA Championship. This is one of the courses that is a regular stop on the PGA calendar every year for it used to be Wells Fargo Championship, but is now the Truist. So when you were looking at some of this data, especially for course history, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt because they are going to have it playing for major championship conditions. But let's just go ahead and dive into what you can expect out of a golfer to succeed at Quail Hollow. And there are 4 major things. You are going to have to bomb it off the tee. It is a par 71 that plays 7,500 yards long. And with the wet conditions coming in, it's probably going to play even longer. You have to hit it far. If you're not hitting it far, or even if you're hitting it far, you're going to have some very long approach shots into the green. So your long irons are going to have to be very sharp. Given you are hitting those long irons, it's going to be a lot harder to be accurate onto the green. So greens and regulation and making sure you can scramble are going to play a major factor. And then this is a very unique green complex. So I think the best putter is really going to stand out this week. And if you're not putting the ball well, then I think you're going to struggle. So pretty much my entire custom model is based around those 4 key things. We sprinkled some in tee to green. Strokes gained putting was incredibly heavy. We are looking at driving distance, incredibly heavy, just like I said. When it comes to approach, I kind of scattered some percentages across, again, greens and regulation. Some of these longer iron buckets, those are going to be incredibly important. Approaching the green, again, scrambling. It's going to be tough to stick it. You're going to have to, your around the green game is going to have to be pretty strong. And then last but not least, let's just scroll on down. 12 on strokes gained Quail Hollow history. It does have very sticky course history. My only fear is that, again, like I said, it's going to be playing like a major championship, which they played back in 2017 when Justin Thomas won. And in that tournament, it played a little bit different. Some of the guys that really stood out were some of the shorter hitters, which I just don't. This course does not scream shorter hitters. It screams the guys that can bomb it a mile. So I'm very skeptical of looking into that. And then last thing, because this is an incredibly long course, I put 8 on long courses. And much to no surprise at all, guess who shows up first? It's going to be Rory. He's playing incredibly well this season. And not to mention, when it comes to course history, like Rory McIlroy is the king of Quail Hollow. He has 4 wins, multiple other top 5s. He should dominate this course. He checks every box you would need. So no surprise we see Rory at the top. Just going down the line, I'm not surprised Jon Rahm stands out because he just tears it up on LIV. A lot of the things that he does well do fit for this course, but I just don't know how reflective we can really, be when it comes to LIV golf. Like, are these numbers really accurate? Some of these guys that he's facing up against, we're talking 50-man fields, no cut, and they're really not the best competition. It's very top heavy, and yes, he is finishing top 10 pretty much every week in those tournaments. But how much weight can we really put into that? The one guy that I'm really shocked that's kind of jumped into our top 3 is going to be Xander. He was on a little bit poorer of a run coming back from injury to start the season, but he's looking really good as of late. Tee to green's pretty strong. He's bombing it a mile. His driving distance, this isn't really reflective. I know this is far, but like last week he was crushing the ball. I think he led the field in driving, which is crazy. So I really do think he has the distance here to really contend. Obviously, he was the winner of the PGA Championship last year, but it's a completely different venue. He putts the ball well enough, and everything else, like he scrambles well, long irons are good, great on long courses. I really think he has a chance at easily taking this again this year. But let's just go ahead and look down the board. Like Terrell Hatton stands out for sure. Bryson, no surprise, he fits the mold and is basically the prototype for what you want at a Quail Hollow course. JT, no surprise. Scotty, no surprise. I'm actually kind of surprised Scotty's this far down. And that's crazy to say, considering, 7th is far down for Scotty standards. It's probably the putting and his driving. He really doesn't hit it as far as you would expect. He definitely sacrifices distance for accuracy, which could be a major factor this week. But the big thing that really stands out for me, he's never played at Quail Hollow. He pretty much skips it for the lead-in to this tournament is a lot of the tournaments in Texas, and then he usually is waiting up for the PGA Championship, so he takes off the Wells Fargo or the Truist. So he's never played at Quail Hollow. I really don't know if I want to take a chance on a guy that has never played here in major championship conditions. And he's really not the furthest off the tee. Still think he's probably going to backdoor a top 3 or 5. But let's just take that with a grain of salt. I don't really think much is getting in the way from him winning this thing. Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he literally tied the PGA record for the lowest score to par for a tournament just 2 weeks ago. So no surprise that Scotty's up here, but I'm still just a little shocked he's this far down. The biggest standout so far is going to be Keith Mitchell, the round 1 king. Crushes it in round 1, falters on the weekend. Ownership is pretty reflective of. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a lot higher owned for 6,200. That's an absolute steal. He should not be 6,200. He should be in the 7s. I haven't really looked into it. I think like Max Homa is 7,700. He's had like 3 okay weeks in a row, and Keith Mitchell's kind of crushed it. Why? They should be flip-flopped in price. Max Homa should be 6,200. Keith Mitchell should be 77. But anyway, some other names that really stand out, like Cantley, no surprise, he's up here. But Harris English is really standing out. Ryan Gerard is really standing out. I think if we were to do weighted strokes gained for some things, he might slip down a bit. Sung Jae for the 8Ks. I think he's the first 8K, yep. Some other guys in the 6K range, Taylor Pendrith, he hits it really far and he putts the ball fairly well. So no surprise there. I think this right here might get in his way this week is the scrambling, and he doesn't hit it the best with the long irons. But okay at Quail Hollow and is pretty solid on long courses, so no surprise there. Neiman is a guy that I really want to like. If you look at his numbers, he doesn't putt it the best, but tee to green, 4th, and he cranks the ball. The biggest deterrent, and we will talk about this later, is that he has a very low apex height. So I don't know how well he's going to be able to stick these greens. But if we're talking greens regulation, he's 2nd in the field. Again, grain of salt, it's live data, but he's a guy that really could stand out, but I think there are some things that could get in his way. Keegan's high up there. Gary Woodland's the first guy in the first guy in the 5Ks. No surprise there, honestly, but I'm shocked he's this high. It's probably on driving distance. Again, cranks the ball, doesn't scramble well, hits his long irons fairly well. I do think this is pretty solid. Continuing to go down the board, again, Spawn, Adam Scott are up there for the price tags. Sam Burns, Benny Hahn are up there for their price tags. Ludwig is slipping. He's not looking that good right now. I really think there are better options if you're going to be spending that much. Who else? Like Corey Connors is kind of up there. Anybody in the top 50, I think models quite well. So let's go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and see, are there any guys that are higher price that are much lower? Oh, we just talked about 7,600. Max Homa does 7% ownership at 7,600. I think it's ridiculous. He should not be this price tag. He should be a lot cheaper. He doesn't model well. Ryan Fox doesn't model well. Cam Smith doesn't model well. He's just probably because of live data stuff. Yeah, he's missing out on all these approach buckets. The Quail Hollow data. That's about it. Justin Rose does not model well. I know he's coming off, I think they said he was an illness last week, and that's why he had a WD. He played like putridly the first 2 rounds of the Truist and the WD'd. But other than that, a DJ, again, a lot of these live guys are going to show up down here and then the 5K range. But for now, let's go ahead and sort this by salary so we can really start breaking down who stands out, what their ownership's looking like, all that kind of stuff. I am very, very surprised Draftkings still priced up Scotty to this price tag. I get it. He's coming off an absolutely dominant win. But 13-4 and then having Rory, who's also just absolutely on fire, $1,200 cheaper seems criminal to me. I'm heavily going to go to Rory. I don't think I'm going to get to much Scotty at all. I just think the price tag is way too high, and the ownership. If he's going to be 36% owned, I don't think I'm going to get down to that. If we can get everybody else in the entire field at lower ownership, especially the 10K range. Bryson is another guy. I think he fits the mold perfectly for a guy that can win at Quail Hollow. I think I've heard a little bit too much buzz around him listening to videos throughout the industry. But again, he has been putting it fairly well. I don't really think 37th does it justice. But third tee to green, cranks the ball. Greens and regulation strong, scrambling is strong. The only reason that he isn't higher with his score is that he is missing all the approach buckets. Liv doesn't provide that data for some reason. But again, third at Quail Hollow for history. Long courses are his jam. I really think he should crush it this week. And that is really the big three. So no surprise the three highest owned guys are the three highest price guys. And then there is a huge drop-off. Ludwig, again, not getting to it. Xander, I have a lot of interest in. I think he is rounding into form quite well. Let's go ahead and look at Xander and what his numbers look like. I really struggle to want to play guys that are like back-to-back major winners. I don't really think it happens that often. Scotty is kind of an outlier at the Masters, but you rarely see guys win back-to-back in majors. But again, T8 at the Masters, putted well, gained across the bag. RBC Heritage, T18, gained across the bag except for off the tee slightly, and it was more an accuracy thing. And then at the Truist, the only place he lost was around the green, which is not really a going to be reflective week in, week out. It just kind of varies the green complexes and around the green. But he's got some pretty strong... Oh, it didn't update it. Let's look. PGA Championship, and then we want Quail Hollow. Let's get those on the docket. I probably passed it. There it is. Let's look at his history around... But again, his last two trips to the Wells Fargo, which is Quail Hollow, second and a second. He won last year on the PGA Championship. Clearly, he likes this place, and he does model incredibly well. I think he's a great option. If we are looking price versus what you're going to get, would I rather have Rory? Probably. But would I rather have Xander and save myself $1,500? That is also an incredibly strong argument. I think overall, when we were talking the 10K range in general, I'm going to be going to a lot of Rory, a lot of Bryce, and a lot of Xander. That's just where I'm going to be at. I don't think Colin's long enough to do it at Quail Hollow, and Rahm, I just don't trust the data, and he has not been good in majors since going over to Liv. The 9K range, again, we've got quite a... Sorry, I gotta sneeze. No, I don't. Quite a strong 9K range, but I do think there are some spots where you can definitely fade. The first one that I'm probably going to be fading is going to be Brooks. I don't think he cares right now. But the next one that is going to... I did it last week, and I'm going to do it again. I just don't really trust Jordan Spieth. I think all of the media attention around him getting his career Grand Slam is going to be too much for him. I don't think he putts the ball well enough. He is great around the green. I mean, he's an absolute savant, can make magic happen any way, shape, or form. But again, greens and regulations not the best. Even the scrambling numbers aren't the best. And he's not great with his long irons. And doesn't have the best history, Quail Hollow. I just don't think I'm going to get there. But my favorite guy in the entire 9K range is definitely going to be JT. Got the monkey off his back a couple weeks ago. He's coming in incredible form. Let's just look at the numbers a little bit closer. And it'll probably be very clear. Like, again, a T2 at the Truist, a win at the Heritage, second at the Valspar. There was clearly... he was coming into that RBC Heritage win in good form, and he's coming into this one in good form. He gained across the bag. Great on approach. He's doing it with distance. That's going to be the big thing. I think he is in an incredible spot to make it now a third PGA Championship. But, again, this whole back-to-back thing, do I think Xander is going to win back-to-back PGA Championships? I don't really think so. Is Justin Thomas going to win back-to-back PGA Championships at Quail Hollow? Yeah, that's even more of a stretch. So, do I think he can easily top 5? Yes. He's coming in impeccable form. The one thing that's going to hold him back is definitely going to be putting. So just be cautiously optimistic, but everything else just fits perfectly. The other guy that I'm looking to heavily is going to be Patrick Cantlay. He just does it well across the board. He hits the ball far enough, and he has pretty good course history, if I remember correctly. Let's go ahead and look at his Wells Fargo history. He's coming in decent form. Again, a T4 at the Truist, T13 at the Heritage. But looking at his Wells Fargo, T29, T21, miscut back in 2021. But I'm more interested in the 29, 21st and how he did it. He putted well. That's one big thing we're looking for. He's gaining more in distance. Again, accuracy for the PGA Championship is different. The big thing that scares me is that he does not really do all that well in majors. He's kind of trying to break that mold, but all in all, I think he's coming in good form, and he's doing it with the distance. That's the big thing. Others in the 9K range that I don't know if they're going to be able to do it with the distance. Again, I talked about Neiman. I think he can do it with the distance, but I don't like the apex height at all. And again, he has really struggled in majors, very similar to Cantlay. And then the others, I don't know if they have that distance. Where is the cutoff point for the 9K range? Now that I think about it. Hatton. I know Hatton models incredibly well. I really want to deep dive him in a second. But the others, I just don't know if they have distance. I don't think Tommy's long enough off the tee. I don't think Shane is. Decky definitely isn't. Vic isn't. And that just... I really think that driving distance is going to be the major factor this week. So for me, it's gonna be JT. I will probably have some sprinkles of Neiman just in case, because one of these, he's playing too well on LIV. He's too good of a golfer. He is going to pop in a major here soon. It's kind of a matter of, do you want to be early on it or do you want to be late on it? Because once he pops, we're going to be seeing him in the 10K range in majors for sure. And then, like I said, going to be going to Cantlay. I think he's long enough and does other things well enough that he can really contend. But Terrell Hatton, he was one. I am shocked he models this well. He's greens and regulation definitely is very strong for this field. He hits it far enough, that's for sure. He putts it well enough. I think this right here is what's going to get me. He does not have the best approach game from these buckets. And I think in general, if I remember correctly, his approach game has been absolutely dreadful. Not jetting. What are you doing? No, it hasn't. Oh. You know what? He started off the year really poor. Had a great offseason. But you know what? Maybe he is kind of turning around a little bit. T14 at the Masters, T5 at Mexico City, which I didn't even realize he putted lights out. T13 at Korea isn't terrible. Yes, he lost putting, but everything else he gained. You know what? I think we might be signing up for Hatton. What's the ownership looking like? 11% compared to this range, not too bad. You know what? I'll have some Hatton. So Hatton, Cantlay, Sprinkles and Neiman, and JT for me when it comes to the 9K range. Jumping into the 8K range, this is going to be a lot of the boom or bust guys. And then some of them just don't fit what you need out of a guy that is going to win at Quail Hollow. I want to like Russell Henley. The industry seems to love Russell Henley, and if I'm not mistaken, oh no, they don't. 3% ownership. It's got to be the driving distance. Can't get there. When I'm looking in the 8K range, I'm going to be going down towards the bottom for a lot of my guys. It's going to start with Min Woo. I think the distance is going to be the big factor for him, and he's a good putter. The biggest thing for him that is kind of going against him is he's not the best on long courses, which is shocking, and he's not played at Quail Hollow unless this Ricker and Good doesn't have the data for it. But I think he's an incredible spot. I think one of the biggest sleepers for this week for me is going to be Sung Jae. He is sandwiched in ownership between Corey Connors, Patrick Reed, and Sepp Straka. All three of them are going to get much higher ownership. And I think genuinely, Sung Jae is sneakily a better fit than all of them. He putts the ball fairly well. Like, that's good. The biggest deterrent, which, again, I kind of have to be a hypocrite. I know I just said I love Sanjay, and that I love driving distance, is that he does not hit the ball the farthest. But I just want to show you his history at Quail Hollow. His last 2 trips, a T4 and a T8. And he has gained across the bag in both of those. He did not do it with distance, but he wasn't terribly short in comparison. He did it with accuracy. I think he's going to be in that other boat of guys that they might be hitting it shorter, but they are going to, they're just going to do it in other ways. He's coming in a little bit better form. T23, T33. This missed cut in, what is this, a Korean tournament? Is very interesting. I don't really understand why or how, for that matter, because he was probably far and away the best guy in that field. But a T11 at the Heritage, T5 at the Masters, and that history at Quail Hollow as of recently, I really think he could be a guy that could surprise you. With his long irons, he's okay. But from deep, which this is going to be where he's going to be hitting from, some of these guys that are piping at 320, 330, like the Rorys, like the Brysons, they're going to be more in this range for their approach. But from 200 to 225, he's top 20 in this field. I think it's very strong. And again, decent history, Quail Hollow, and he is 5th in this field on long courses. I think that is nothing to scoff at. Coming in at just 8% ownership, which is a little bit lower than the guys around him, I think he could be a very sneaky play. Who's the other one that I wanted to talk about? Maybe it was one of these guys. Was it Sepp? I think it was Sepp coming off the win. He doesn't model well, but all in all, I think his game seems to fit absolutely everywhere, and his long irons are decent enough that I think he can make it happen. Even with the shorter driving distance, I think he was going to be one. So for me, the guys that I'm going to be looking at in the 8K range, it's going to be Sepp, it's going to be Sungjae heavily, and then some Min Woo. But that's about it for me. I'm just going to kind of quietly look through this and see if anything's standing out. Nope, not really. I know a lot of people are going to go to Patrick Reed, and I think he misses the cut. I'm just being honest. I think the industry is way too heavy on him right now, especially with the President's Cup buzz. I'm not going to get down to it. I think he misses the cut. Now, jumping into the 7K range, we've got a ton of golfers. If I remember correctly, it's like 30 guys. And this is where we're getting into the spots where they aren't going to check a ton of boxes, but they will check enough that they should be able to stand out. I'm just going to work my way down the list. Starting with Berger, he's going to be one of the higher owned guys. I don't know if I'm going to get to him, and I think it's because of this driving distance. But in general, his green regulation number is pretty strong. Tee to green, he's pretty decent, and he scrambles very well. His long irons are good enough. It's kind of interesting that you can be 5th from 150 to 175, this bad from 175 to 200, and then this good from 200 to 225. I think he's a fine play, but at ownership, I think I might go another direction. I'm going to be very heavy on Sam Burns this week. Again, 2 major things you're looking for, driving distance and putting, and he does both of those very well. Does he do the rest of it that well? Not really. Not the best green regulation, not the best scrambler, and not the best with these long irons. But it does show he's pretty good on long courses. And if I'm the 2 major things that I'm going to factor this week are going to be driving distance and putting, and he is very strong for this price range in those 2 categories, I'm going to have some interest. So he's probably my favorite guy in the 7K range. Just in general, I'm not too heavy on this, too high on the 7K range for this week. I don't like a lot of these guys. I think some of the pricing is a little off, or they just don't check enough of the boxes. The next guy that I'm seeing some interest in is going to be Tony Finau. Can't putt to save his life, but at least he's long enough. And what was the big one? Is I think the approach bucket right here. He's very good in this field from the ranges you need to be on approach. And then he's top 10 in the field on long courses. I have a lot of interest in Tony Finau. And then I think it was these two guys, Davis Thompson and Akshay, that I really wanted to talk about again. Davis Thompson, he is not the best putter, but he does a lot of the other things well. Tee to green, he's pretty strong. He's far enough off the tee. Good greens in regulation. And then the approach buckets, if I remember correctly, are pretty strong. Yeah, 39th, 17th. 17th is going to be the major factor there. Quail Hollow doesn't do all that well and doesn't do all the best at long courses, but I have some interest just based off of what did I just say? Again, it's been a long day, guys, so just bear with me. The tee to green, greens in regulation, he's long enough. Putting is going to be kind of holding him back. And then Akshay, he should model a lot better. However, it's going to be because of the driving distance. He's going to have to do it the same way Sungjae does it. You might be short, but you're getting it on the green and you're just finding a way. You're just grinding because he's a very strong putter. He's pretty solid at these approach buckets. So, yeah, he might not hit it as far, but I think he's going to get it to the green fairly well, and he should be able to putt well. The ending factor is going to be this long courses. 27th in the field on long courses is good enough for me. And at 7,300, you can't really go wrong. Really, this entire, I shouldn't have just said Davis Thompson and Akshay. Maybe I am more interested in the 7K range than I should be. I should be a lot more interested. Keegan, Benyon, and Cam Young all are kind of popping. Let me look at why. See, this is a big thing. Some of these guys that just can't putt. Oh, there it is. What am I kidding? It's driving distance. Keegan's pretty far. He's going to be long off the tee. Benyon's going to be long off the tee. Cam Young's going to be long off the tee. Cam Young doesn't do anything well. I'm really intrigued to see what his numbers were prior to the Truist. He was one that I did have on my radar for last week, but he was just playing so pitifully that I couldn't get down to it. It's right here. He putted incredibly well. I'm shocked he finished T7 was this poor accuracy. It must have been just the course they were playing at, the Philly Cricket Club. And he lost off the tee. That's kind of wild to me. But these numbers don't really scream any. No, I think he regresses back. I'm probably not going to get Cam Young. I'm probably going to stick to Davis Thompson, Akshay. Keegan, good tee to green, decent distance, scrambles well, approach buckets well. Sign me up. Decent Quail Hollow history. Benyon, I'm pretty sure is the exact same thing. Hits a ball an absolute mile. His approach bucket distance is pretty strong. Decent Quail Hollow history. Sign me up there. It's going to be really tough to parse through all of these guys. So probably going to go to the guys that are going to be the lowest owned, which is why Davis Thompson and Akshay are going to stand out for me. And that's about it for this range. I know Adam Scott does model well, but why is that? He does hit it far enough, that's definitely for sure. He's an okay putter. I don't know. Let's look at Adam Scott. Let's give him a look. He might be one that goes a little under the radar, and he shouldn't. I think it's more the fact that, like, if you want to win a GPP, do you want a guy that is going to finish, T35? Or are you going to want a guy that has high upside, like, in my opinion, like the Akshays of the world? That is probably why. Like, he's probably going to make the cut, but that's going to be it. His last two at Quail Hollow, 29th and a 5th. That's not too bad. And he pretty much gained across the board in both. Yeah, I have some interest in Adam Scott. I think he'd be fine. Oh, that's why. He's in the 6K range. Duh. Well, that'll be our start of the 6K range. All right, Adam Scott grades out very well for just 1% ownership. Sign me up. But I'll backtrack a little bit. Again, when 7K range, I'm going to be looking at probably Benyon, Keegan, Akshay, Davis Thompson, those four, Tony Finau, and then up to Sam Burns. Those are pretty much going to be the only 5 or 6 guys that I'm going to get to. Again, 6K range. This is where you're really getting into the scrubs. There is a 5K range this week. But Adam Scott does grade out well. Dean Burmeister does fit the mold for a guy that should do decently this week. Or or at Quail Hollow. He's good tee to green. He bombs it an absolute mile. Biggest deterrent for me is that I just don't have these approach bucket numbers, and we don't have the Quail Hollow number as well. But he could be a sneaky one. I think for me, though, at 5% ownership, I'm just not going to get there. I'd much rather go to Adam Scott at the same price. Harris English grades out incredibly well. Just looking at the things, he's fine in driving distance. His biggest one is going to be putting. He putts it very well, and he scrambles very well. So I think once he gets the green, he'll do just fine. But sorry, my laptop popped up a weird thing. Once he gets to the green, he'll be just fine. But getting in there might be tough, and he's pretty decent at Quail Hollow. So he's one that pops. Taylor Pendrith, I have a lot of interest in. He's a good enough putter. He hits the ball really far. The rest of his game is going to be what kind of holds him back. He's middle of the pack in these approach buckets, but he does pretty well at Quail Hollow, and he does tear apart long courses compared to this field. So I think I'd be fine with him. Denny McCarthy, I wanted to get down to. He was one that I looked into heavily, but the approach buckets just aren't there. I don't think he's going to be able to, unless he's just somehow magic around the greens and scrambling, and really is magic with the putter, which can always happen. He isn't long enough to really do much. Rasmus, I just see the distance. Not going to get there. And then, okay, here was the biggest one. Steven Yeager. He's going to be my 6K play of the week. Coming in at just 5% ownership. He's one of those guys. He does everything you want fairly well, but he doesn't do much great. Driving distance, he checks that box. He is a zero putter, which I think can be fine. Might hold him back this week, but all in all, his biggest thing, for a guy in the 6K range, you really just need like a top 30. If he can finish 24th, that is perfectly fine. He hits it far enough, and the approach buckets, if I remember correctly, are like they're okay. 56 and 31st. 31st is pretty good because I think he's going to be more living in this range. So that's just fine to me, and he's pretty decent on long courses. Coming into this one, he's coming in good form. I think it was a T5 of the Truist. I just want to be sure on that. T7 of the Truist, gained across the bag, did it with distance. In the last 6, he's done it with distance. And he's been either a 0 or slightly above putter. And dating back to the Mexico Open, he has it in him. He can be a good putter. Gained 1.5, 2, close to 2, 1.5, 1 strokes putting. Then we saw a slight regression, but it really isn't too much, and he is making up for it in other categories, specifically in approach. So I think he's going to be my 6K play of the week, especially if he's just going to be 5% owned. He always kind of pops and shows up at random times. I think this could definitely be a spot for him that he can actually, maybe make his way in the top 20 and be a serious staple in your lineups. The rest of the 6K range just kind of moving down. I know Spawn popped well, but I don't think he's really coming in good form right now. If I remember correctly, since his showdown with Rory, he's kind of struggled a little bit. T17 of the Truist, that's not too bad. Gained across bag except for around the green. What is his history at Wells Fargo? T27 and T18. I don't think that's bad. And he's gained on approach in both significantly. I think he's perfectly fine if we're going into the 6K range. Biggest one, again, Keith is going to garner a ton of ownership. And I completely understand why. Granted, can't putt to save his life and can't play on the weekend to save his life. But you know what? He's probably going to show up and be like third on the leaderboard for Thursday. He hits it a mile. Greens and regulation's pretty solid. Scrambles well. Approach buckets are fine enough. He's got good Quail history. Let's go ahead and look at his Quail Hollow history because, that says a lot right there. I think it's this right here, the T21. Or in 2021, a T3 and a T8. So his last 3 trips to Quail Hollow. Yes, the T59, but just his approach game was not on. But then a T3 and a T8. So I think he's got decent history. He can definitely, play well here. He has an eye for the place. So sign me up for some Keith Mitchell, even if that ownership is disgusting. I will never play Kurt Kitayama. Sorry, not happening. Fool's gold. Ryan Gerard, he is going to be the one that I really want to look into more because he models incredibly well. And I think it's because it's going to be weighted a lot worse. And I think it's coming off the Valero and the Houston, where he gained so many strokes putting, so much around the green. He seems to have a good feel, good hands. And you know what? He's gaining it distance somewhat. I don't understand this right here. How at Valero do you lose that much in distance, but you just gain everywhere else for a second place? That's crazy to me. Does he have any history here? Missed the cut in 2023. I don't know. I don't know. Coming off of a missed cut in a T42. Lost on approach in 4 of the last 5. Probably not going to get there on Gerard. But if we're looking, again, 6K range, because we're about to dip into the 5K range. 6K range, we're looking heavily at Keith Mitchell. We're going to be looking heavily at JJ Spawn, Steven Yeager. Andrew Novak, I know is going to get, I kind of skipped over him. He's going to get a ton of ownership for this range, and you know what? I kind of understand it. He's coming in the lead form, but what was it, I don't think he hits the ball far enough. That's going to be a big deterrent for a lot of these guys. I really think the driving distance is going to hold you back. But you know what? If I'm going to like Sung Jae, I'm going to like Akshay, I guess we got to look at the rest of it. So putts decently, scrambles okay, decent from this approach bucket. Andrew Novak's fine. So maybe some Andrew Novak, Taylor Pendrith, Harris English, and Adam Scott. Those are going to be the guys that I'd be looking for in the 6K range. And then we're dipping into the nasty 5K range. I know Woodland stands out significantly. I'm really interested to look at his overall numbers coming in. Let's look. He does fine. I think this is it. When was the last time he lost? The Open Championship last year was the last time he lost on distance. That is just wild. Wow. But overall, you know what? He's gained on approach in 4 of the last 5. He's either been a 0 or gained enough putting. His history at, let's jump around here. At Quail Hollow, a T38, a T14, a 5th in 2021. With Drew. I mean, again, his last 3 at Quail Hollow are very strong. I have no issue. 5,800 just seems real low for a guy that hits it this far, is playing pretty well. Yeah, you know what? I'm all for Gary Woodland. Again, these approach buckets are very solid. Tom Hoagie, I was about to skip right over him, and Lucas Glover. Great in these approach buckets. What is holding them back? Oh, yeah, their driving distance sucks. So they are like Akshay Lights, and neither of them can putt. So no, never mind. Neither of them putt, neither of them hit that far. But at least Gary, yeah, he might be a 0 putter, but at least he hits it really far. Continue down the list. I think Kevin Yu was a guy that I kind of wanted to look to for driving distance. Greens regulation. The big guy that I really wanted to showcase. Well, actually, I'll stop before I get to him. EVR and Taylor Moore. Halfway decent putters. Hit it far. I'm all for it. Where are they bad? Holy cow. What does EVR model as? Wow. You know what? Sign me up for some EVR. That looks really strong. Decent putter. Hits the ball far. Good in greens and regulation. And he's decent at these approach buckets. I'm all for it. Taylor Moore, I think the approach buckets is what's going to hold him back. But at least he hits the ball far. But the big guy, I'm just going to keep scrolling. I'll come back up. Is this guy right here. Nicholas Norgard Muller. Has he ever played at Quail Hollow? No. Has he ever played in a major? No. But he is top 10 in the field in driving distance, and he is top 15 in strokes gained putting. Those are the 2 major things we're going to be looking for. As long as he can just, and which that sucks. I really wish these approach buckets were here, because he is a guy that has been playing on the PGA Tour. If he can just hit those approach shots strong enough, which again, this greens and regulation number says he can. I see no reason that he can't at least make the cut. He is $5,400. I totally understand that he's almost 8% owned. That is terrifying when a guy at this price is that high owned. But you know what? He does check the boxes. Definitely worth a look. And then scrolling back up, there was a couple guys I skipped over. Johnny Vegas, he was one. He hits the ball a mile, but he literally cannot putt. Greens and regulations pretty strong, and he's okay. These approach buckets, so I think I'm fine there. Because, again, he's going to be more living in this range with how far he hits it, not this range. And he's got decent Quail Hollow history, and he's decent on long courses. Let's go ahead and look at Johnny Vegas just to see what that history actually entails. T43, T8, T42. So he's making the cut. He's making the cut at Quail Hollow in each of the last three. Is it really all that much? No, but I mean, if you're going with a guy that is, what, 55? 5,500 and he gets you a top 10, another T8, I mean, that is absolutely incredible. I'd be all over that. Hall and Matt Wallace, I know I skipped over him for a reason. I think it was... Yeah, the approach buckets just aren't good enough for me. And then the other major one was going to be this Patrick Rogers. I really want to know why he grades out this well. And I think it's because he's just decent across the board. Pretty solid putter. Hits it far enough. Decent scrambler. I don't know if... I mean, these approach buckets are fine considering this is a 140-man field. And he's got decent Quail Hollow history. I think I'm fine with Patrick Rogers. 1% ownership, that's pretty strong. The rest of the 5K range, I'm really not going to get down to. So that is about it for me. If we'll start at the bottom and work our way all the way back up to the top, just kind of as a recap. 5,400, where is he, and how do you even say his name? And I skipped over him. Not a great start to the looking back at this. Nicholas Norgard Muller, he's going to be a highlight for the 5K range. Patrick Rogers, Johnny Vegas, those guys. And then where... Oh, this laptop is lagging. EVR and Gary Woodland. Those are going to be the guys in the 5K range. We are talking the 6K range. I'm going to be looking more towards Keith Mitchell. We are going to be looking more towards JJ Spawn. We're going to be looking more towards Steven Yeager heavily. Novak is fine. And Taylor Pendrith and Harris English and Adam Scott. Those are going to be my guys in the 6K range. 7K range. This whole clumping of Davis Thompson all the way to Benny On all look really strong. Tony Finau is a good option. And then Sam Burns getting up to the 8K range. Sepp looks fine. Sung Jae I'm going to get to. Min Woo, but that is about it. And then for the 9K range, we're looking at Tyrrell Hatton. We are looking at Patrick Cantlay. We are looking at Justin Thomas with some sprinklings of Neiman. And then all the way up to the 10K range, Xander, Bryson, Rory. Those are going to be my heavy guys. If you go to Scotty, that's perfectly fine. I just don't know if I really want to pay that price tag for a guy that's never played Quail Hollow. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into some of my favorite bets on Draftkings. So the two that I'm going to be looking at are a Keith Mitchell over Sergio Garcia at -120 and a Steven Yeager top 30 at +235. The Keith Mitchell one seems pretty obvious. Again, he is an absolute round one savant, crushes it in round one, and Sergio Garcia has been absolutely trashed since his miscut at the Masters. I think it was something like let's go look. It was like a 50th out of 50 people, and then like a T42. What is it? I just want to be exact here. 50th and T42. Absolutely sucking wind on approach. Not even really doing it with much distance, where you know that's going to be imperative this week. But I just think -120, this should be at least a -150, given how strong Keith Mitchell is in round ones. And then it seems pretty simple. I've already talked about Steven Yeager a ton. +235 just seems very steep for his skill set and how I think he's going to play this week for a top 30. So that is going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Can't wait to share all we have going on behind the scenes. But again, in the meantime, be sure to like this video, subscribe, follow us on all our socials, fill out that beta newsletter form. That is very important to us. That is the best way to get in on the ground floor of what we think is going to be the industry leader in all things fantasy golf. and that's going to be at Tap in Fantasy. Thursday can't come soon enough. Hope you guys have a great week for the PGA Championship. Thanks again, and see you next time.